I think one of the easiest traps to get into is to assume that there is one sort of pathway that exists or one truth that actually exists in this world. Um, and you see this sort of belief structure played into virtually everything in society, where we assume that there is a singular best way or a singular best sort of approach to whatever the sort of career or life path or however you might see it, that there is a singular answer that actually exists, right? So you might look at um, the belief that there is one pathway to success in a career, the belief that there is, um, one particular way to view, um, the world around us, one particular belief structure that actually is important. I mean, all of these things, we assume that many of us assume that there is a single thing that actually exists. But there is a lot of people um, that don't necessarily fall for that belief structure, and that they believe that there is a plurality of things that actually happen, and there is also not necessarily not necessarily like a truth that actually exists, but a, a repertoire or a group of truths that actually exists in the moment a little better than something else. And I know that's sort of like squishy to sort of point out, and I think I know a lot of people would have trouble with that when they start thinking about, okay, isn't there, crime, for example. We know what a crime is, but part of the reason why we have lawyers, for example, and judges, for example, is because the recognition that that is a very difficult thing to think about. That there is a singular way of living, and we understand what this particular thing is. And if you think about law, for example, law is just a group of rules to some degree and procedures where we decide on, or some entity decides on, what is within those particular within the particular accepted way of doing things and what's not. And at any given time, and this is why I want you to think about law, is that it's an evolving way of thinking about the world. And that often, I mean, there's many things that are very clear cut and that we understand what is the right way and the wrong way, and the sort of truthfulness and not truthfulness. But even those small things are constantly being challenged. And even those things that we think like this is the way that the world actually is do change very rapidly because somebody has come up with a new way to challenge that particular law and to think about it in a different way. And so even laws, for example, the way that we think about like this is right and wrong, or what a crime and what not a crime is, it's constantly evolving. And it's not just within the particular moment of that crime existing where people are challenging it and sort of saying one way or the other, but also how we think about the collective entity of the crimes that actually existed over time. And I think it's really interesting when you start thinking even of norms that we have in society, of what we believe is today in the now, as like, I don't think we should do that, and that doesn't feel right. And even the sort of most heinous sort of things that people have done, and I hate to bring that up, but even really like not great things today that we feel as heinous, other than some really not great things, right? That are clear cut, right? Like serial murder and things like that. That we know that maybe that hasn't been a good thing, but over centuries, I mean, if we put in the context of Genghis Khan, for example, here's this guy 1,000 years, well, 3,000 years ago. I can't remember the exact time, but it was, a long, long time ago. This guy just went around and pillaged and did all sorts of really bad things. And at that time, that would have been considered acceptable to, to his sort of followers. Um, but we know, like today, like that's not something that we want. That's not a great idea. That's not the society what we want to live in. So what I'm getting at, and I'm sort of digressing, is that our view of of the world around us is often very complicated, and there's not really a one possible way to think about something. And we have to sort of accept that this squishy reality exists and that there's not necessarily one possible way to view the world. And some people may not view the world in a certain, this is the way that the things are, but there's a squishy reality that actually exists or possibly exists. But many of us believe we live in a way that we think that there is a one way. And so coming back to the where I was thinking about and what I was thinking about is that, we think that there is a one way to success, right? Business success, and that you just do this, this, and this, and all of a sudden you're done and you're successful. Well, if you take this squishy view where there is many different perspectives, where there are a lot of things that are different to individuals, then by default you have to assume and think about that there's not going to be one possible way or one probable way, most probable way to success, and that everybody has a different conceptualization of what that means in their head. And this is a really challenging thing in science and how we view performance, for example, how we view, um, what does it mean to improve success? If you take that perspective, then there may not be a right answer, or there may not be a singular answer. And we have to accept that. We have to say, like, as much as I would love that there's a singular way of doing things, and this is the way that we actually do it, and you should just do this, this, and this. If you take the perspective that there's multiple perspectives, that things are evolving and changing at any given time, then there may not be a singular best answer at any given time. This just adds a little bit of nuance into our world by thinking like that. Um, it also helps us to sort of see different perspectives and to admit that, hey, maybe we don't have a singular best answer. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.